Dear students, welcome back to today's video. Now in the last video, we discussed about this questionnaire, right? So we went through all the different parts of the questionnaire and we saw what are the questions that is listed here. Now in this video, I'm going to start explaining all the different parts of SPSS. Do not worry, I'm going to start from the very beginning. So I'm going to show you where to find SPSS and how to start it. So I'm going to start from the very beginning. So in the remaining portion of today's video, I'm going to show how to use SPSS and then we are going to start entering data for our questionnaire in SPSS. So let's start. So the first thing that you need to do is start typing SPSS in your start bar. So once you are done, then we'll see that there is an option called IBM SPSS Statistics 25. Now you can use any version. You can use version 25, 24, 23, up to 21. So from 21 to 25, any version is okay. So once you get this option, just click here. Now let me tell you this. Once you click on this option, depending on your computer's processor speed, it may take some time to load for the software. So do not worry if it is taking too much time. You just have to wait for it up to maybe 1 or 2 minutes. So let's wait. So yes, it's loading and as you can see, the front page is already here. So let's give it some time. Yes, it's here. Now do not worry, at one time you will find a lot of windows opening. So do not worry about that. Now this is the first thing that you are going to see when you launch IBM SPSS Statistics, or shortly known as SPSS. Now here, you don't need to worry about this section on the right. Just look at the left. Now I have a lot of recent files here. In your case, you are not going to see any files because you have not started using SPSS already. So in your case, there will be no recent files. The most important part for you is this, new files. So under new files, you will have new dataset and new dataset query. What you need to do is select the first option, new dataset. Now please remember, you have to double click on this option. So you select new dataset and double click. So once you double click, this window opens. So this is the fresh new SPSS window. So there is no data here for the moment. So let's think of it as a new Excel file. So these are all the different cells and these are empty. Now these are all the different cells that we are going to use to enter our information. Now I'm going to explain the purpose of each of these cells very soon. But before that, I need to explain another thing which is really important. Please pay attention very carefully. If we take a look at the bottom left corner, again, bottom left corner, you will see two options. One is variable view and the other is data view. Now, as you can see here, the variable view is highlighted. So this whole window is the variable view. So whatever you see here, this is the variable view. On the other hand, if I select the other option now, which is data view, see, the layout changes. So now the data view is highlighted and the view completely changes. So in summary, we have two views available. One is variable view and the other is data view. Again, this is the variable view. As you can see, this is completely different. On the other hand, we have data view, which is again a completely different view. So these are two separate windows that we are going to use to record or input two different types of data. We will need both of these views. Now for the moment, please keep this very important information in mind. Now in the variable view, so in this one, we record all the questions from our questionnaire. Again, in the variable view, we record information related to the questions in our questionnaire. On the other hand, in the data view, we record all the answers or responses of the respondents to all the questions. Again, in the data view, we record all the responses or the answers provided by the respondents in our questionnaires. I will show you how to do it very soon. For the moment, please keep this in mind that to say things in an easy manner, in the variable view, we record information related to the questions, and in the data view, we record all the answers to our questions, which were provided by the respondents. Alright, I know many of you are very confused still. Do not worry, once I start recording or inputting data in all of these cells, it will be crystal clear to you. So let's start with the variable view. So let's start recording the questions here. Now I would request you to do this. When you are listening to this video or watching this video, please make sure you are practicing side by side. So make sure the SPSS file is open in your PC or laptop and you are doing exactly the same thing as I am doing here. In that way, it will be very easy for you to understand. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to record the questions in this questionnaire in the variable view. Again, I'm going to record all the questions or information related to the questions in the variable view. Now, please keep this in mind. In order to record data or information in the variable view, we do not need to collect any responses. We do not need any answers from any of the respondents here. Why? Because we are going to record the questions only, or information related to the questions. So for the time being, in order to record data in the variable view, we do not need any responses from the respondents. Why am I telling you this? Say you have your questionnaire ready. Now you have not started collecting data from anyone. Now at that moment, if you want, you can start recording data in the variable view. Why? Because you are going to record information related to the questions. So no answer needed at this moment. So alright, without further delay, let's start recording the questions. Let's take a look at the first question first. So what is your age? So we are going to record information on this question first. So let's go back to SPSS. So yes, we are in the variable view and we are going to record our information on the first question, which is what is your age? Now, as I fill up each of these cells, I'm going to explain what is the purpose of each of these columns. So what is the purpose of a name column? What is the purpose of a type column, width column, decimal column, and so on. So let's start with the first question again. What is your age? Now, I select the very first cell. So here, what I have to do is record the variable in that question. Again, record the variable in that question. So what is your age? In this question, the variable that we have is age. So type age here and then enter. Now the moment you press enter, automatically you will see that some of the other information has been filled up. Do not worry about them for the moment. I will explain each of them one by one. So again, the first question was what is your age? And in that question, the relevant variable that we asked the question about was age. So we typed age here. Now please pay attention. This cell is in row 1. As you can see on the left hand side, we have 1 written. So this is row 1. So all of these cells here is in row 1. Now in the first cell we have age, and in all the subsequent cells in this row, we are going to record other characteristics of this same variable, which is age. Again, in all the subsequent cells in row 1, we are going to record further characteristics or information with regards to age. So simply speaking, this row is dedicated for the age variable. So we are done with the first cell, which is in the name column. Now let's take a look at the second cell, which is in the type column. Now as you can see here, this is recorded numeric. Now what do we mean by type? This cell is asking what is the type of the variable that you are going to record. Again, what is the type of the variable that you are going to record? So by default it is selected numeric, but there are other options as well. How can we access these options? I guess everyone can see these 3 little dots here. So just select this. You will see that we have another window and it's called variable type window, right? So here are all the other options that we can choose. So we have numeric, comma, dot, scientific notation, date, $sign, custom currency, and all the other options. Now for your case, you don't need to look at the other options. These are all advanced options. In our study, almost 99% of the cases, the options that we need to choose is numeric. So we don't need to change this option here. So you just select OK and then we are done. So again, we don't need to change it. So by choosing numeric, we are saying to SPSS that yes, the answer to this variable is going to be a number. So when we will start recording all the responses in the data view here, There we will record all the numerical values. So yes, we are done with type. So simply speaking, you don't need to change this. It is always going to be numeric. Next, we have width. It basically refers to the width of the cell. For the time being, you don't need to worry about it. It's not that important. Then comes decimal. So this is important. By default, it says 2. Listen to me very carefully. What does this 2 mean? So again, in the data view, when we will start recording our data or responses regarding age, we will get different numbers, right? Somebody will record 24, somebody will record 25, somebody will record 20, and so on. Now, while responding, it might be the case that somebody might answer 32.5 or 32.56. So there can be decimal responses as well, right? So by filling up this cell, we are instructing SPSS that yes, do we want to record decimal responses? Do we want to see decimal responses in the data view here? So if we select 2, that means we are allowing SPSS to consider responses up to 2 decimal places. So if I type 32.50, SPSS in the data view will show 32.50. Now if I type 0 here in the decimal place, say for example I delete this number and type 0 and press enter. So here what will happen is in the data view, when I start recording, there if I type 32.50, SPSS will not show me any decimal place values. It will show me only 32. Why? Because here in the variable view, I have instructed SPSS to not show any decimal places. So that is why it will not show me any decimal places after 32. So I guess it's clear. So if I place 0, no value after the decimal point will be shown. If I type 1 here, 1 digit after the decimal places will be shown. So it will show me 32.5. If I type 2, then in the data view, SPSS will show me 32.50 or 32.55, whatever I record. Now for the time being, let's assume we are allowing 2 decimal places. So let's type 2 here. Enter. So we are done with decimal. Next, go to the label column. What do we mean by label? Now theoretically speaking, this is a place where we can write all the details about the age variable. Again, this is a place where we can write all the details about the age variable. Why do we need the details? Let's assume in your questionnaire you have 100 questions. So you will have a lot of variables here. Now, when you have a lot of variables, up to 100 variables, it might be the case that 1 week later, when you open your SPSS file and you look at this age variable, you might forget the question, or you might forget what was the detail about this variable. So in those cases, this detail in the label column helps us. So in case we forget the details of the age variable, the easiest thing we can do is go here and take a look at the details. Now usually what I do is basically I type the whole question here. That's the easiest option, right? So even if I forget the details of the age variable, I just take a look here and I find out the whole question. That's the easiest method. So let's do that for now. So let's go back to the questionnaire. So I'm just going to copy the question, Control C, then go back to my SPSS file, then select this cell, double click, and then Control V. See, the question is pasted. Now please remember, what I do usually is this: I delete this portion. So I do not keep the serial number of the question. So I select it and then just delete it. And then enter. So yes, this is my detail of the variable. So I paste the whole question here. So we are done with the label of the variable. Next comes values column. Now this is a very important point, but not for this question. Again, this is a very important point, but not for this question. I will explain you this values column in detail very soon. Do not worry about it. I will explain this concept in the very next question or in the next variable. For now, let's look at the other columns. Now the good news is you don't need to worry about the MISIM column, the columns column, and the alignment column. These are not necessary for you. These are very basic. So you don't need to change anything here. what you need to look at is this cell here, measure. This is a very, very important point. Trust me, it's really important. What is measure? Now, if I click here, you will see three options: scale, ordinal, nominal. Can you relate? Yes, I have explained nominal variable and ordinal variable in one of the earlier classes, but I explained types of data. Remember? Now, if you have forgotten, please go back. Otherwise, you will not understand a single thing from now on. So if you have forgotten the concept, check out the video on types of data and then come back. So alright, I have explained nominal variable ordinal. I have also explained ordinal variable. Now the scale variable is new to you. Do not worry, you know this concept already. Now if you remember, I have explained that there are four types of data: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Again, nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now what SPSS does is, it has separate options for nominal and ordinal. However, in SPSS, interval and ratio data both are called scale measurement. Again, interval and ratio data, both of them are called scale measurement. So in your questionnaire, if you have a variable that is interval data, we have to select scale measure. And in our questionnaire, if I have any ratio data, in that case as well, we have to select scale measurement. So in summary, for both interval and ratio data, we have to select scale option. So now, let's take a look at this age variable. Is age a scale variable, or ordinal variable, or nominal variable? What do you think? Yes, you guessed it right. Age is a scale variable. Why? If you go back to my earlier video on types of data, I have explained there that age is a ratio variable. And as I said just now, in case of ratio data, you have to choose scale measure. So that's why I'm selecting scale measure here. So again, what happens in this measure column? We have to let SPSS know that the variable that I have written here in this row, which is age, is it a nominal measure, or ordinal measure, or a scale measure. So in this case, this is a scale measure. Alright, we are done with measurement. Now again, the good news is we do not have to worry about the row column. It's not important for you at all. So ignore this column. So yes, congratulations to you guys. We are done with the variable view. Now for your ease of understanding, I am briefly explaining what is the thing that we did here for this very long time. So in the variable view, we basically list all the variables from the questions in our questionnaire. Again, in the variable view, we explain all the variables that we have in our questions in the questionnaire. So till now, I have given you an example through one single variable, which is age. So in our questionnaire, our first question was regarding the age variable. So number one important point is, every single row in the variable view is dedicated for one single variable. So as I have written age here, I am going to provide all the necessary informations or characteristics in these cells of row 1. So here I have written the name of the variable, which is age. In the next cell, I have written the type of the variable, which is numeric. Now next, you do not have to worry about this width cell very much. It's not that important. Now next we have the decimal cell. So here we decide how many decimal places we are going to allow SPSS to show when we start recording responses in the data view. Next cell, which is label. So here we provide all the details about the age variable. Now to make things easy, what I usually do is basically I type the whole question here. Then next we have the value cell. This is really important, but not for this variable. I'm going to explain this concept in the upcoming variables very soon. Now next we have missing. You do not have to worry about it. Next we have columns. Again, you do not have to worry about it. And the same thing applies to align. You do not have to worry about it. The next cell is measure, where we basically select is our variable nominal, ordinal, or scale. And finally, you do not have to worry about this row column. So we have explained all the characteristics of the age variable in row 1. Now, I know many of you may be still confused. It's very normal. It's a new software, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you how to record all the other variables from our questionnaire. So do not worry about it. From past semester experience, I can guarantee you that after I show you the recording system of the next two variables or two questions, the whole process of data recording in the variable view will be crystal clear to you. So hang in there, alright? Now let's start recording the next question. So now we are going to start recording in row number 2. So let's go back to the questionnaire. Here, the second question is, what is your height? So now we are going to record all the information regarding this question. What is your height? So let's go back to SPSS. And here, we are going to start our recording process. Now in the first cell, we have to input the variable name. Now can you guess what is the variable that is there in the second question? What is your height? In this question, what is the variable? Yes, you guessed it right. It is height. So this question is asking something about the height variable. So in this cell, we have to type height. So double click and then start typing height. H-E-I-G-H-T. Done. As soon as we press enter, these cells get filled in. Now what we have to do is check each of these cells and make necessary changes. Let's start. So in the type column, we have numeric, and as I said just earlier, we don't need to change it. In the next cell, we have width. Again, we don't need to do anything about it. In the decimal column, we are going to keep it as 2 again. So we don't need to change it either. Now in the next column is label. Here, we copy paste the details of the height variable. So as I said just earlier, I'm going to copy paste the whole question here. So I'm going back to my questionnaire. Now I'm copying this whole thing, and then I go back, and here I just paste the question. Enter, and then I'll just delete the serial number, and then enter again. So our label system is done. Next we have values. Again, in this question as well, we don't need to do anything about it. I'm going to talk about values very soon in the next question. Next we have missing, columns, and align. We don't need to do anything in these 3 cells as well. Now here we have measure. If I click here, you will get 3 options: scale, ordinal, and nominal. Now can you guess which option do we have to select for the height variable? Yes, you guessed it right. For this we have to select scale. Why? Because height is a ratio variable. And as I said in the last question, for ratio data, we have to select scale. So I'm selecting scale here. And then finally we have the roll column, and we don't need to do anything to it. So that's it. We are done with the height variable. See, it's that easy. Don't worry, I'm going to show you the recording process of the other variables as well. As we move forward, you will get used to the recording process. Now let's move on to the next question. So we are going to start our entry process for this question here. So let's go back to the questionnaire. Now the third question is, what is your gender? Alright. So let's go back to SPSS. Now can you guess what is going to be the variables here? Yes, it's going to be gender. So I type gender, enter. Now in the type column, as I said, it's going to be numeric. Now here, many of you may be confused. How come answer to the gender question be numeric? Respondents are either going to say male or female or other, right? Then how is it a numeric answer? It's a very valid question. I'm going to answer it within just 2 minutes, alright? Do not worry about it. So as I said just earlier, it's going to be numeric here as well. Next, we don't have to worry about the width column. We don't need to change the 2 in the decimal column as well. Now in the label column, we are going to copy paste the whole question. So let's go back to the questionnaire, then copy the question, and then come back to SPSS and finally paste it. And then I'm going to erase the serial number and then enter. Next we have values column. Now we are going to need this one for this question. Now trust me, this is really important. Listen to me very carefully for the next 2 minutes. When you roll out the survey to the respondents, for the gender question, all the respondents are either going to select male, female, or other option. right? Now, once we collect all the responses, we have to start recording the answers in the data view. You remember that, right? That the data view is used for recording answers to the question, the answers that the respondents provide, right? Now, here is a rule, and this is a very important rule. Here goes the rule. In SPSS, when recording answers in the data view, we always have to use numbers. Again, in SPSS, when recording answers in the data view, we always have to use numbers or enter numbers. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example here. For example, I give you this questionnaire to fill out. Now say Shihab got a questionnaire. Now he answered this question that yes, he is a male. So his response was male. Now when recording his answer in the data view later, as his answer in the data view, I cannot type male. I have to record a number. Again, in the data view, I cannot record male. I have to record it as a number. So when recording answers, we have to convert this male answer to a number. Again, we have to convert this male option or answer to a number form. And this is called coding. Again, this conversion to number is called coding. And we set up this coding system in this values cell. Again, we set up this coding rule or coding system in this values cell. Don't worry, it's very easy. I'm going to show you right now. So what are we going to do now? We are going to convert this male option into a number. We are going to convert this female option into a number. And we are going to convert the other option to a number as well. So let's do that. So in the values cell, you will find another 3 dots here. So click on these 3 dots. You will see this window, values labels. Now here we assign the numbers to specific answers. Again, we assign specific numbers to specific answers. Let me show you one example. So as answer to gender, we have 3 options: male, female, other. Now we are going to convert all of these options into specific numbers. So for example, in the value cell, we are going to type 1, and in the label cell, we are going to type male. And after that, we are going to select add. See, this option is added. So what does this mean? Whenever someone answers male to the gender question, in the data view, when recording answers, we are going to type 1. Again, we are not going to type male as my answer, we are going to type 1. So what did we do here? We converted this male option into 1. Again, we converted this male option into 1. This is called coding. Now you can ask, like, why do you need to do that? Why do we need to convert this option into a number? Now for you, the simplest answer is SPSS is a statistical tool, right? And statistics means number. So in order to do mathematical operation or statistical operation to all your answers, SPSS needs some sort of a number. It cannot do mathematical operation on male or female or any text, right? So when recording answers, we need to convert all the text forms into numbers so that statistical operation can be run. So yes, we have converted this male option into 1. So coding for male is done. Similarly, we have to do coding for female option and the other option. So let's do that. So now change this value into 2. And here I type female. Then I select add. See, coding for female is also done. Say for example, Progga gets a questionnaire. Now she answers to the gender question female. Now when I start recording her questionnaire in the data view, I will type 2 there, not female. I will type 2. Now finally, I have to also code the other option. So here I type 3 and then here I type other and then select add. So coding for the other option is also done. So we have done coding for all the 3 options in the gender question. So we are done. Now select OK. Now as you can see, it shows the coding here. The coding is too long, but it's there. Now, if you want to check again whether it's correct, you have to just click on these three dots and the window appears again. So our coding for this question is done. So select OK. This is the whole coding process. Now, I have a small question for you. The question is, for the gender question, we had to do coding. But for the height and age question, we did not do any sort of coding, right? We did not use the values column. Now, can you answer why? I'm giving you 30 seconds to think. It's a very easy answer. Please give it a try. So let's wait for 30 seconds. Alright, now let me give you the answer. So in coding, what we do is convert text into numbers. So the answers to the gender question were text. So male is a text, female is a text, and other is a text. Now we converted all of them into numbers. 1, 2, 3. Now in the age and height question, the responses themselves are numbers. So when someone answers age, they choose 30 or 40 or 50. When someone chooses height, they choose 5 inch, 6 inch, 7 inch, and so on. So they are by default numbers. So we do not need to convert them any further, right? So that is why we did not have to do any coding here. So that is the answer. So alright, we are done with the coding. So we are done with the values cell entry for this question. So whenever we have to do coding, we have to use this values column. Now let's move on to the next cells. So we don't have to do anything to the missing columns and the align column here. Now in the measure option, we have to choose either nominal, ordinal, or scale. Now can you answer which option do you have to choose for the gender question? Yes, you guessed it right. It's going to be nominal. If you have forgotten, please go back to the types of data video. There I have explained to you in detail why gender is going to be nominal here. Alright, now we are done with this question as well. However, we are just left with one explanation. Remember, I said I'm going to explain you why I chose numeric here as well. Now let me give you the answer. Remember we did coding here in the values cell. So we converted all of them into numbers. Now in the data view, we are going to enter them as specific numbers. So 1, 2, or 3. And that is why we chose numeric. So even though the respondents are going to select either male, female, or other option, we have converted these options into specific numbers. And in the data view, when we start recording data, we are going to record or input the numbers. So 1, 2, or 3. And that is why we chose numeric here. So that is the explanation. Alright, now let's move on to the next question. So let's go back to our questionnaire. So the next question is, what is your highest educational qualification? Now let's go back to the SPSS file. So here the variable is going to be educational qualification. So we are going to type educational qualifications here. Now here is a very simple rule. All of the other variables were single word here, right? But educational qualification is 2 words. Now a rule is, in this cell under the name column, we cannot write more than 1 word. That is how SPSS is designed. Let me show you what happens when I try to write more than 1 word. So I type educational qualification. Enter. See, variable name contains an illegal character. What is the illegal character? Space. We cannot use any space in this cell. So I select OK and then I go back. Now what I do usually, I use underscore in between 2 words. So educational underscore qualification. See, I used underscore here, then enter. Now it accepts. So the simple solution is to use underscore in between two words. Now let's look at the other cells. In the type variable, it's going to be numeric. Nothing to do with the width cell. Decimals, you don't have to change it. In the label cell, I'm going to copy the whole question. So I'm going to go back, select this question, Control C, come back to SPSS, and then paste it. And delete the serial number. Enter. Next, values. Do we need to do anything to this value cell here? Yes, we need to do something. Why? Because the response to educational qualification is not a number. So it's going to be either SSC, HSC, A-level, O-level, and so on. So we need to convert these responses into specific numbers. So click here, click on these three dots, and then we are going to convert all of the responses into specific numbers. So let me go back to the questionnaire. So we have no education, 8 pass, SSC. So let's convert these three options first. Let's go back to SPSS. So 1 stands for no education. Add. See, the coding for no education is 1. Then the second one, 8 pass. Add. So the coding for 8 pass is 2. Then I had SSC or O level. Then add. Then 4 I had HSC or A level. Add. I forgot the next options, so let's go back and check. So undergraduate, graduate, and PhD. So let's go back. 5 is for undergraduate. Add. 6 is for graduate. Add. And 7 is for PhD. Add. So we have converted all the options into specific numbers. So the coding for this question is done. Now please remember, it's not like for the first option you have to always choose 1. For the second option you have to always choose 2. No, it's not the case. For 8 pass you can choose 1. For no education you can choose 2. For HSC you can choose 7. It's completely up to you. Now the important point is, if you choose 1 for HSC, when someone responds HSC to their question in the data view, you have to type 1. Again, let me give you another example. If you type 7 for 8 pass here in the coding, if someone answers 8 pass in their questionnaire, in the data view, you have to type 7. Why? Because that's how you coded it here. So you can use any numbers while coding. Alright, so the coding is done here. So let's select OK. Now let's move on to the next cells. So we don't need to do anything to these 3 cells. Let's directly go to the measured cell. So we have scale, ordinal, and nominal. Now what do you think? Educational qualification. Which option will it be? It is going to be ordinal. So I select ordinal. Now I'm not going to explain why is it ordinal, right? It's sort of a home task for you. Give it a thought and try to find out why educational qualification is an ordinal variable. If you have confusions, please ask me later. Now as you can see, we cannot see the last column, right? Now in these cases, what you have to do is you have to come down. Now here is a scroll bar. So you can move left and right. Now what you have to do is double click and hold. And then right or left. Right or left. So you can sort of drag it. So yes, I can see the roll column now, but I don't have to do anything. Now if you want to see the variable column here again, what you have to do is go down and then double click and hold and then drag it. So yes, we are done with the entry for this question as well. Let's move on to the next question. So the next question is number 5. So please select one of the following options. So here under 5 we have 2 separate questions. So we have to make entry for both of them separately. So we have to treat this one as one question and the next one as another question. So I hate bus 302 course. So let's go back. Now here the variable would be hate underscore bus 302. Enter. So as there are two words, I have used underscore. Next, again, this is going to be numeric, nothing to do with the width cell. You don't need to change the decimal cell. And here I can type the whole question. So let me go back to the questionnaire and then copy this. I hate bus 302 course. Come back and then paste it. Enter. Now in the value cell again. Now this is a special case. We have to use the value cell here. Why? Let me explain. Let me go back to the questionnaire. In Likert scale questions, the respondents choose 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. So they choose numbers. However, please note, these numbers stand for specific text, right? So 1 stands for strongly agree. 2 stands for agree. 3 stands for neutral, and so on. So these numbers stand for specific individual text options. So that is why we need to do coding. Why again? Because we need to tell Excel that 1 stands for strongly agree, 2 stands for agree, and so on. So the thumb rule is for Likert scale questions, we have to do coding. So let's go back and start the coding process. So I click on the 3 dots. Now here I start the coding process. Now 1 stood for strongly agree. Then add. So yes, 1 stands for strongly agree. So the coding is done here. Next, 2 stands for agree. Add. Then 3 stands for neutral. Add. Then 4 stands for disagree. Add. And finally 5 stands for strongly disagree. Add. So done. So the coding process is done. I select OK. So yes, the coding is done for this question. Now just as before, we don't need to do anything for these 3 options. In the measure cell, we have to select one of these 3 options. Now if you remember, in one of the earlier classes, I explained that all Likert scale questions for you are going to be ordinal. So select ordinal here. And then we don't need to do anything about the last column. So we are done for this question as well. So the new 2 things that we learned here for this question is that for Likert scale questions, we always have to do coding, and Likert scale questions for your case is going to be ordinal. Let's move on to the next question. So let's go back to the questionnaire. So here we have the Joker movie is really awesome. So yes, let's go back. So here I'm going to type Joker awesome. Enter. So we don't need to change numeric. These 2 cells again unchanged. So here we have to copy the question. So let's go back. Select this. Copy and then come back and then paste it. Then in the value cell, we have to do the coding again. Now if you remember, the coding system is exactly same as it was in the earlier question. Now the good news is we can copy and paste the earlier values just right here. So what you have to do is select this cell, then Control C, and then come here and then Control V. See, it is copy pasted. So this is a shortcut. Now moving on, we don't need to do anything about these 3 cells, and in the last measure cell we have to select ordinal. So we are done with this question here. So yes, I have shown you the data entry process for 6 questions here. Now the last 2 questions are very easy. So let's go back to the questionnaire. What is your hometown and what was your position in the hopping competition in high school? So let's take a look at the what is your hometown question. So let's go back to SPSS. So I type hometown here. enter. So it's going to stay as numeric. We don't have to do anything about these two options. Here I'm going to type the question. So let's go back, copy this question, and then come back and then paste it. Delete the serial number, enter, and then we have values. Now here, this is tricky. This is really a little bit tricky. Let me explain why. For the hometown question, the answer is obviously not going to be a number, right? So it's either going to be Dhaka or Borishal or Khulna or Rajshahi and so on. Now in the questionnaire, there are no options given, right? But you know that there are 64 districts in Bangladesh. Now, are you going to do coding for 64 districts? That's insane. We do not do that. So the trick here is, instead of doing coding for 64 districts, what we do here is we wait for the answers to arrive. Again, we wait for our survey questions to be responded, and then once we have the survey questions, we go through the different answers. And after looking at the answers, we do the coding process. Let me give you an example here. Say I roll out the survey to 10 respondents. Now, before collecting the data, if I wanted to do the coding, I had to do coding for 64 districts. That is insane. So the shortcut that I follow is, once I get back the responses from the 10 respondents, I look at the 10 different answers of the hometown question. Now let's say I find out that there are 10 different responses. So someone responded Dhaka, someone else responded Kumilla, someone else responded Borishal, someone else responded Rajshahi, and someone else Sylhet. So in this manner, 10 districts. Now what I do next, I basically do the coding for these 10 districts. So maybe 1 for Dhaka, 2 for Rajshahi, 3 for Sylhet, 4 for Kumilla, and so on. So my task gets much easier. So this is a trick here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I click on these 3 dots, and then I do coding for 4 districts. 1 for Dhaka, add, 2 for Kumilla, then add, 3 for Rajshahi, then add, and then 4 for Sylhet. Add. Yes, done. Select OK. So the coding is done, and then we have to directly go to the measure option. So hometown, which option do we need to choose? Yes, it's going to be nominal. I'm not going to explain it here. Again, it's a home task for you. Why have I chosen nominal for hometown? Give it a thought. If you face any problems, ask me later. Alright, so we are done with the question of hometown as well. Now I have shown you here 7 question entries. Now we are left with 1 question only in the questionnaire. Now that is sort of your homework. I'm not going to show you that process here. Alright, so give it a try at home. So yes, in today's class we have thoroughly discussed about information entry in the variable view. So what did we do here? In the variable view, we recorded information about the questions in our questionnaire. Now in the next class, we are going to record data in the data view. What will happen there? We will record the answers to our questionnaire. So in the variable view, we recorded the details about the questions in our questionnaire. In the data view, we are going to record the answers. Now before I close today's class, there is one last very important thing remaining. Saving your task. So once you are done with this class, you are going to close the file, right? But before that, you need to save it. Otherwise, all the tasks will be gone. So for that, what you need to do is go to File and then Save As. Yes. So here, I'm going to save it in my desktop. But if you want to save it somewhere else, you can do so. It's completely fine. Now here, type the file name that you want to give it. So data, entry, class 1, and so on. So name it as per your wish and then save it. So it's done. However, there is one small important detail left. See what happens when I try to close it. So I select close. So it asks, closing the last data editor window will exit SPSS statistics. Do we want to proceed? Yes, I want to exit. So I select yes. This is the thing I'm talking about. Another window pops up and it asks save contents of output viewer to output 1. So whenever we open SPSS, two windows basically open. One is the input file where we basically worked till now. So that is the place where we record all types of data. So variable view, data view, all of that in one file. So that is sort of the input file. We saved it. But there is another window which is output file. So output 1. I will explain this file in the next class. However, the reason I'm showing you this is that you will get this window and you have to save it. I'll tell you the reason later in the next class, but know this for now that you have to save this file as well. So save contents of output viewer to output 1, you select yes. Then just as before, you select your destination. So maybe select desktop and then give it a name. So maybe data entry class 1 output. So the earlier file was about input. This one is about output. I'll explain it later in the next class. Don't worry. So you have to just save it. So once you save it, it's gone. So your SPSS file is closed for the day. So congratulations to all of you. You have gone through a very long video and I guess you have mastered the concept of variable view entry. Alright. So in the next class, we are going to go to data view entry. See you in the next class.